Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may happen to be in the world. Welcome to IAG Live, and it is a very good evening for me. It is 10 p.m. where I am at the moment in Toronto, and but we will, of course, shortly have been joining us from Sydney, where it's 10 a.m. But before that, let's say, as we always do every week, hello to our intrepid studio producer, Oscar Guiaro. Come on in, Oscar.
Hello.
Hey, Oscar.
Good evening.
Thank you. Yes, it is good evening. Yes. So it's 10 p.m. here, 10 a.m. where you are. Never a dull moment for the IAG team bringing the news of the week to our audience. How is it there in Macau? I heard there was a bit of a storm.
Yeah, it has been the whole week. Storms now and then, and it's like a steam bath here. Very humid, so summer is arriving.
Well, here in Toronto, it was actually quite warm, but a typical sort of Toronto heat. But now it's gone cool again, so quite cool. Big temperature drop yesterday, and quite crisp as I was walking around in my suit at the show. So a tale of two different cities. And Oscar, are you? How long have you been back now from Spain? Oh, you've been there quite a while, haven't you? Yes, that's right. Yeah. What do we have? Oh, no, it was G2E Asia. That's what I'm thinking of. That was just last week, wasn't it?
Yeah. It looks like ages, but it was just 1 week ago.
Yeah. Time flies, doesn't it? And then over the weekend, oh, that's right. We had that thing on Friday, and then I came over on the weekend, and this week's flowing as well, really, really quick. All right. Well, thanks, Oscar, for coming in, and we will talk to you later. See you next week, Oscar.
I see ya.
Ciao. And let's now bring in from Sydney, Australia, IAG Managing Editor, Ben Blashke. Come on in, Ben.
Hey, Andrew. How's Toronto?
Toronto is a bit chilly, actually, now. It was hot yesterday, but it was quite chilly today. So very variable. It's very Melbourne-like weather here. If you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes and it'll change. And I see you're in your usual position there with the fish.
Brought the fish back, Andrew. It's probably appropriate because it's been a bit wet the past few days in Sydney as well. It's also getting a bit cold here. We're about to head into winter. In about a week's time, we exit autumn, and getting very chilly.
Yes, the Australian winter, of course, in the middle of the year. Our northern hemisphere friends may not be so familiar with that concept, but coldest month of the year in Australia, July, of course, and we have a hot Christmas in Australia. We often have barbecues for Christmas because it's summertime there. And tell us a bit about the week, Ben. How's the week been for you? How's it been story-wise and otherwise?
First of all, it's sort of been reacclimatizing back into my normal, at-home routine after a pretty hectic couple of weeks. Obviously down at the Aussie Millions in Melbourne, and then G2E Asia, as you were mentioning before, in Macau. So just getting back into normal life, working very hard on our June edition of IAG, which will be released next Friday. Will come out. And of course, breakfast briefing hasn't been the busiest week of big news stories, I wouldn't say, across the region. Scattered with a few very interesting little tidbits here and there.
Yeah, well, not really. Some earnings, right, during the week.
A couple of earnings. We had Bloomberry came out. We had Genting Malaysia late last night came out. So a couple of Newport, of course, yesterday released their results. So a few earnings still coming around.
Right. And then next week I'm off down to Ohio, and then the week after I'm going down to Florida. But we can talk about all that later. Yes, it's funny hearing you saying acclimatize. Of course, over here in North America, you have to say acclimate. They're quite surprised when you say acclimatized, getting used to all these Americanisms with being over here in the US quite a bit. All right, well, let's get into the news of the week. What do you got for us, Oscar? What's the first one? Where you go, Ben?
Yeah, this was really interesting. So this story came from the minutes of Genting Singapore's annual general meeting, which is actually held in April, but the minutes were made public earlier in the week, or last Friday, I think they were made public by Genting Singapore. And it was a really interesting insight because KT Lim, of course, the chairman, went through a lot of what's been happening there recently. And one of the big things that he mentioned, of course, Genting Singapore's results have been pretty poor for the past few quarters. They've struggled for market share. Of course, they are in the middle of their big 2.0 transformation, so that's certainly affected them. But one of the things he said that is it's not really fair to compare Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa, because he said the mandate is different. MBS is much more mandated to be premium and gaming focused. We're mandated to be a true integrated resort, he said, so focusing on non-gaming elements, attractions, all that sort of thing. Feels like it may be a little bit of an excuse for poor results recently. So, but the analysts think that this will pick up over the next 6 to 12 months as more attractions do start to open.
Well, look, as they run through their RWS 2.0 process, of course, things you would imagine would improve. Don't know if I buy his argument there. I think if you'd asked both Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa 5 minutes after they were awarded the licenses, if that was the case, you probably would have got a different answer, I think. So, that's, I don't know about that one. But I think there's no doubt that the two will come closer to each other when RWS 2.0 opens, simply because of the fact that they'll have better attractions and a more interesting offering, whereas MBS is already very much at the peak of its game. Of course, it's rolling out new things too, a lot of new things. I mean, they're spending $8 billion or whatever it is, the new tower, all of that. But that will be, I think, more in the nature of increased great capacity. They already have great capacity. Well, they're going to have more great capacity. Whereas RWS should signal a significant increase in quality of their offering.
Yeah, of course, Marina Bay Sands has completed the renovation of its existing towers, so that's all done and operating at 100% scale, whereas RWS is still renovating existing hotels, making changes. So that's certainly true. I mean, I think the true test will be in 4 or 5 years once both are fully done. That will be the litmus test for each company.
Yeah, and I suppose that also the geographic locations, being on Sentosa Island. I mean, that's probably a fair point. Marina Bay Sands has probably got the more, I don't know, active, would you say, location, being closer to the airport, really sort of prime location in terms of visibility. Whereas Sentosa, you've got to drive out there. It's not that long, but in Singapore terms, it's a bit longer. Feels like a bit of a family destination, that sort of thing. So a little tougher for them, maybe, in that regard. That's probably possibly a fair thing to say. It's interesting to see we got 12.6 thousand views of that story. Gee, we always get a lot of views with the Resorts World and the stories in Malaysia and Singapore, don't we? And Philippines.
Yeah, and it didn't take long. I remember looking at this story maybe 6 or 7 hours after I wrote it, and it was already up to a few Ks. So, something about Singapore stories just captures the imagination very quickly.
Sure does. I mean, they're a major part of the economy over there. I guess so. Yeah. All right. Well, that's an interesting one to start to kick off with. What's next, Oscar? Bloomberry results.
Yeah, I mean, look, this really continues the trend, what we've been seeing in Manila, in particular in the Philippines over the past year or so now, in that VIP and premium mass are challenged at the moment. It's a trend more so restricted to Manila more than your Clarks or Cebu's. It's really a Manila thing that's happening because that's where a lot of the real VIP was concentrated previously, particularly the Chinese VIP. So that's continuing to impact all of the operators. Bloomberry, of course, just a narrow $2 million loss. They mentioned they've been focusing on a lot of cost savings. Of course, Solan North is still on the up. So really, a lot of the downward is around Entertainment City, Solaire Entertainment City. And look at us, this looks like this is going to be an ongoing challenge for a while for those operators.
Yeah, and then I guess Solaire North as well. You wouldn't expect huge VIP out of them, although they'll probably get some, but you wouldn't expect a huge VIP out of them. But a very robust slots market, you would imagine, out of Solaire North. What was the 2 million loss? Yeah, what was it? Scroll down, Oscar. What was the revenue comparison? Just see if you can dig in there and find that for me, Ben.
I'll have to look a little closer here. It might need to make it a bit bigger for me, Oscar.
Because when it's the losses as small as that, it's often good to look at the revenue, because it's really the percentage doesn't really reflect, because it's biased because it's so small.
Yeah, scroll down, Oscar. I know that I did the two different properties a little bit further down. So there we go. Solaire GGR at around 162 million, and then Solaire North looking at 76 million. So a little over double for Entertainment City.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? The break between the two. And do you have the year-on-year comparison percentages there for revenue? You must have that somewhere.
Yeah, that's in there somewhere. Solaire Resort North, a very slight increase year on year. Entertainment City, just scroll up a little bit, Oscar. Entertainment City was just there, was down 18% year on year. So certainly feeling
in terms of revenue. Yeah. And this is for obviously the first quarter of 26 compared to down 18%. Yeah. It's probably in line as with what you would expect with what's going on over there at the moment. I mean, there was all doom and gloom, wasn't it, when we were over there for our MAD event at RWLV? There was a real the event was great, but the general mood about the market was quite gloomy there from the people who were operating there, and they were saying the cost of oil and the war in the Middle East and general sort of softness of Chinese and Korean visitation. Yeah, I wonder how long this will last for, or whether it's a 1 year thing or a bit longer than that. That's interesting, isn't it? All right, but I think those numbers, whilst not great for Solaire, are probably much in line with the wider market. And I guess you may have the Newport results story later on, do we, Ben? It'd probably have a similar numbers, I imagine.
And actually, the decline is very, very similar in terms of percentage from last year between Entertainment City and Newport. So, we'll see that trend.
20%. Yeah, I mean, 20% is a lot. It really is a substantial amount. I mean, I guess you would imagine the Philippines, because the Philippines markets are obviously very, very much sort of split into thirds. The grind slot action, the locals table action, and then the VIP, the sort of the Chinese/Korean action. Of course, not all VIP is Chinese and Korean, but traditionally in the Philippines, they've been the major two feeder markets. And so when there is something that affects the locals, it really does affect the numbers quite a bit, because it's 2/3 really, and roughly it's a third. It's not exactly those fractions at different properties. Some properties are more, some properties are less. Some can be 40 and 20% for those sectors, but substantially, it's let's say more than half is your sort of local grind action. And they seem in the Philippines to be very, very sensitive to just day to day, live a little bit more week to week in the Philippines than in the rest of the world, I think. So they're more sensitive to these sort of price changes. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually quite interesting with PAGCOR releasing the GGR results for the industry-wide across the Philippines for Q1, because it actually highlights the fact that the domestic online gaming sector in the Philippines took a hit in the second half of last year, and that was because of regulatory changes. We've spoken a lot about the delinking of licensed sites from e-wallets and various other regulatory changes that PAGCOR is in the process of implementing at the moment. So that has seen revenues in the online sector decline, which has ironically seen licensed casinos in the Philippines reclaim their place as the primary contributor of over 50% of GGR, even though that's actually declined as well from this time last year. So now I think the Philippines as a whole, be it online, be it land-based, is just facing a number of headwinds at the moment. So, and I think that's probably what we're going to see for a little while, as we just discussed. I guess what will be interesting in the long term, or even over the next 6 months, is as the regulations settle in across online, will we sort of see more stabilization in that online sector? I would assume that's sort of what we will see coming up.
So of that 1.42 billion, slightly under half, is it? I mean, the numbers are probably down there in the story. Slightly under half for the online sector, and slightly over half for the bricks and mortar sector. And it's still 1.42 billion times 4, and it's Q1. Remember, which isn't the greatest quarter. I mean, that's almost 6 billion. That's only 320 million short of 6 billion. Still a very, very healthy industry. I mean, that's all gaming, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, that includes paid call casinos as well, although they comprise.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to include those numbers. It's still a very, very healthy industry, and could be on par with Australia and Singapore. In fact, I would suggest that's even still now better than Australia and Singapore. Singapore is probably more like 5 billion, I guess. Yeah. All right, let's go. What's next, Oscar? Isn't this interesting?
Yeah, I thought this would be a great one to have a look at this week, because it's quite fascinating, and it plays into a lot of what we've spoken about recently, which is, illegal grey market, black market gambling, and just how massive that industry is. And yet we still have across Asia a majority of governments who are just reluctant to license and regulate online platforms.
Yeah, look, it's been interesting being here at SBC Canada this week. Which isn't their biggest show by a long shot. It's a relatively small. I was talking to the owner of SBC, had a meeting with him yesterday, and he was saying this is a relatively small show for them, and I'll be going to their Fort Lauderdale show, the SBC Americas, in a few weeks. But it was interesting to see how vibrant the industry is here. Ontario is licensed. They're about to open up Alberta, the province of Alberta here in Canada. And, the industry's fine. It's absolutely fine. Okay, does it have its issues? Of course it does, like any industry, but it's not the great evil that everybody thinks it is. Online gaming's been very stable, and it's very established here in North America. Online sports betting's now in something like 30 states of the US, more than half the states. Even online casino in 7 or 8 states. Here in Canada, quite strong. Ontario's a strong area of it. I mean, GG Poker, the biggest poker site in the world, is based here in Toronto. It is not the evil when done right. When done right with government regulation and government buy-in and a sensible market. We had some speakers here at the conference at SBC Canada, some really sort of intelligent speakers and senior people in government, sort of saying, why this is a viable industry and should be regulated. It's going to happen anyway. Much along the lines of the things that the guy from New Zealand, I forgot his name, Mr. James, wasn't
Paul
it?
James.
Paul James, from New Zealand, said when we're down at Regulating the Game conference in March. And it just makes sense to have this industry, but yet in Asia we're really struggling. We've just got what we've got in the Philippines, and hopefully what's going to happen in New Zealand will play out well. But it's such a shame. Well, hopefully we'll get there eventually in Asia. But just seeing this week, there were, I don't know, there may be 30 companies exhibiting. I might be underselling it. Might be more like 40 exhibiting at the show, and very vibrant industry and contributing towards a lot of employment and a lot of tax being collected. And nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Just needs to be properly regulated and licensed and so forth. All right, what's next, Ossa? This is the thing we did last Friday. I suppose I better talk a bit about this one. So, Access Macau. So this is something we'd been planning for a very long time. When the Macau government announced the non-gaming expenditure that each of the 6 concessionaires were required to do under their contracts that they signed on the 18th of December 2022. I remember the day, exactly 1 week before Christmas 2022. It was a Sunday. And I remember Pierce and I working on 6 separate stories, one for each concessionaire, detailing all their non-gaming commitments. And it totaled $13.6 billion over the next 10 years from January 1, 2023 to December 31, 2032. And there was a commitment in there that if in any of the first 5 years of the concession period that the GGR was more than 180 billion patakas, that would go up by 20%. Well, guess what? It was in the very first year in 2023. So from January 1, 2024, that commitment of 13.6 billion was uplifted to 16.3 billion, which is equivalent to $31 million a week. So an incredible amount for 10 years. So an incredible amount of money that the concessionaires have committed. And what, of course, it's led to is just a cacophony. I don't know if that's the right word. A cacophony of international companies looking to enter Macau and soak up some of that money. And of course, the Macau concessionaires, they need these companies. They need companies from overseas to come in and to bring in concerts and various forms of entertainment and museums and restaurants and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. But of course, entering Macau is not easy. And as we've discovered, and many companies have discovered over the years, if you want to do business in Macau, it is both a very, very small place and a very, very big place at the same time. It's got a lot of action, but the pool of decision makers is actually quite small. In some respects, it's a small country town. It's only got a population of 600,000. The circle of people that make these decisions is probably, a few hundred making these decisions at the high level. And there are quite unique ways of doing business in Macau. There's a famous saying in Macau, for those of you watching who are outside of Macau, there's a famous saying called TIM, which stands for "This is Macau," which is the universal explanation for anything that doesn't make sense on the surface. Oh, this is Macau. You have to understand this is how things are done here. So people quite often fail. Companies quite often fail when they come into Macau. I mean, and then because of this, we were approached a lot to try and assist companies in coming in. So we've made a business unit out of it called Access Macau. And we launched that on Friday of last year. It was only a week ago. Wow, it feels longer than that. It was only a week ago. And we had this quite intimate affair at Artisan Grand Lapa, which is a great hotel in Macau, on Macau side. And we had 4 tables there, and we invited 28 very special guests, including one very high-powered representative from each of the 6 concessionaires. So, Oscar, if you scroll down there to I think it's the second paragraph, maybe, or no, third paragraph. Keep going down. The first paragraph under there it is. The first paragraph under the picture there. We had the sub-director of the MGTO, the Macau Government Tourism Office. Helena, the director, was out of town, so one of the 2 sub-directors came. And then we had, as you can see from that table, very high-powered representatives from each of the 6 concessionaires. So Kevin Kelly, the COO of Galaxy, and I mean, I won't read them all. Kenny Fung from MGM. So we had a C-level representative from 5 of the 6, and we had a very senior non-gaming SVP from the 6th of the 6th. So all 6 concessionaires were represented at a very high level. So we've launched that business unit. So if anyone watching is interested, go check out accessmacau.com, where they have a website explaining the business there. And it was a great little event on Friday, and you were there, Ben.
Yeah, it was a great little luncheon and good presentation by you, Andrew, and very interesting concept. I do note that the timing is very good, actually, of this, because it was only in February that Bill Hornbuckle, the MGM Resort CEO, spoke in the earnings call. It's the only time I've heard anybody really speak about this at length, about the fact that MGM, he said at the time, has spent about 35% of that 10-year commitment. But he basically said that we're a little bit out of ideas, or we're not quite sure exactly how we want to spend the rest. We need to talk to the government. We don't want to just waste that money. If we're going to spend it, we want to spend it on the right sorts of things. So it was quite clear that, exactly how that spend is going to be distributed has not been decided yet. So, and obviously, as you said, companies looking to come into Macau all the time. So I think being able to filter those companies and basically introduce the right supplier to the right concessionaire is a great idea. I think that has a lot of legs, and I think it's an issue that the industry is grappling with right now, is how do we spend this money moving forward?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, a number of the concessionaires have said to me, listen, we've got a problem with the fact that we get bombarded by every weird and wonderful idea, and many of them don't fit our criteria. So a concept like this could be great because we are trusted by all 6 concessionaires. We do have access. I mean, there's access. It's in the name of the business, but we're not going to share that access haphazardly and annoy the 6 concessionaires with a zillion ideas. So we're going to help companies to position their idea in a way that has the most chance of success when going to the concessionaire. So this is like much of our ideas. They incubate, they germinate, and then they incubate for a while. We've had this on the cards for a couple of years actually, and it's great to finally be able to launch it. And there's Scott Messenger, and that picture at the bottom, the right-hand corner there, at one of the 4 tables. That was a table full of local Macau lawyers. If you scroll down, Oscar, there's Jadeson on the bottom right at a table of GMs, hotel GMs. I scroll down, Oscar, and there's you, Ben, hosting a table of business luminaries. The CEO of BNU Bank there, the head of the British Chamber of Commerce. There's Paul Heritakis from West Star Architects, Donald Shaw, friend ex-CTM, and there's also the GM of the St. Regis and another one of his staff members. So yeah, it was a great little event. All right, let's move on to the next one, Oscar. So accessmacau.com, if you're a company that's interested in that, go check it out. And one nice story for Angel here, Ben.
Yeah, spent a bit of time at the Angel booth at G2E Asia last week, Andrew, checking out the latest technology. I played a few hands of blackjack on the new smart blackjack table, which was a bit of fun.
Nice.
I was sort of showing how that works, and yeah, had a good chat to Brian Jenkins there, of course. Who, of course, we always catch up in Macau, even though we live about 5 minutes from each other here in Sydney. But as usual, caught up in Macau. So this was interesting because obviously Angel and the other smart table companies, Walker Digital, have sort of rolled out their product all across Asia and certainly all across Macau, primarily focusing on baccarat originally. But of course, the idea eventually is to have complete casino coverage so that you can track every chip and every player's play right across the casino floor from start to finish and navigate that full journey. So, Brian was mentioning that they think now with roulette being released recently, blackjack and Sikbo are also on show at G2E Asia, that Angel has between 90% and 95% of the casino floor covered now and edging in closer to 100%. He said that actually, Brian said the most difficult one is actually craps. That's the hardest one to do. Which is ironic because it's actually a very small part of the casino floor anyway. You might see 1 or 2 craps tables maybe, particularly this part of the world. But that's the one that they're struggling with a bit of this, or not struggling, but it just takes more time to get the technology right for that particular game. But yeah, very interesting, Andrew, that they've got all these new games coming out: the smart roulette, smart blackjack, smart Sikbo. So interesting to see how this technology is transforming the industry.
Yeah, it's really changed the industry, hasn't it? It's changed some of the paradigms of the industry that we've had for decades. Like even the whole concept of rolling eventually may decline because of smart tables, and the way we calculate profits from tables is changing because of the advent of smart tables and the extra data that we have, and it's producing all sorts of data for the properties that they're not really using yet, that are going into data lakes that I think AI is going to be analyzing at some later date. So yeah, quite interesting. And both Angel and WDTS have been very successful with this whole smart table technology. I mean, WDTS in particular, I think, are just swamped with orders, so that's great for them. So they've had a very think Jay Walker's done very well out of it, and good luck to him. There was a lot of investment in the early days, and there was a lot of disbelief and skepticism about smart tables in the very early days, but there's no skepticism now. They're pretty much mandated everywhere. So, and you kind of got to have it. So quite interesting. All right, let's move on to the next one, Oscar. Yes, video that you shot when you were up at Hann about maybe a month ago.
Yeah, about a month ago, I went up to Hann with yourself, Andrew, and Jadson, of course. Jadson and I went and visited Hann Reserve one day, played a round of golf, or half a round of golf, because Jadson basically got heat stroke. Pretty hot that day. And, but before we played, we sat down. We got in the golf buggy, and we drove up to the halfway house where they serve refreshments when you're playing around. And beautiful little spot up there, sweeping views of the mountains and the golf course, and sat down with Tim Neal and did a little video interview with Tim. There we go, with my pasty white legs on show, because I was about to play golf and it was pretty hot that day. As it tends to be.
I wouldn't go into male modelling, Ben. I think that sticking to your current job's a good idea. Yeah, but Tim's a lovely guy, and very interesting for you. The video's good. I've watched the video. It's interesting to hear what their long-term plans are. And he's got a lot of land up there, Mr. Hann, hasn't he? He's got land. He's got a lot of plans for 3 big golf courses. It's not just the golf courses. It's all the stuff that's going to be around. I mean, that whole Hann Reserve project is it's huge, isn't it?
It's absolutely massive, and when you walk in, you sort of get dropped off at the clubhouse, and you walk out. They've got a big veranda overlooking. On the left is the Dragon's Landing, the Nicholas design course that is currently soft opened, and then on the right you can see the KJ Choi course, which is still being developed and planned to open at the end of this year. And you just see for miles, and it's pretty spectacular actually. So. And there's still work going on, but we played a round of golf and it was great. It was a great course to play, a lot of fun, just some beautiful landscapes around that area. So good on them. I can't wait to see. And I should say the clubhouse itself is spectacular. Was right. A couple of things not quite finished when I was there, but very, very close. I think it would all be done by now. Amazing locker rooms for the players, up to what Korean players expect is sort of how it was explained to me. So very interesting to go up there, and I encourage anybody that gets a chance to pop up to Hann Reserve and take a look. And if you're lucky enough to get an invite to play, then definitely play around.
Yeah, in all seriousness, you and Jadson were very lucky to be able to play the course, because it's not really officially open completely. It's just for their top players, basically, in the casino, isn't it?
It's about 40 players a day at the moment during the soft opening period. So that will grow once it's fully open for play, but it is reserved for casino members essentially and other invited guests.
Yeah, that's great. So anyone, any of the golfers here, I would encourage you to watch that video and check out what they're doing up at Hann. All right, what's next, Oscar? It seems to be a bit of the never-ending story, this one, doesn't it? It's at Ainsworth.
It's certainly good for us, Andrew. Plenty to write about, plenty to report on. Look, this has been an ongoing, I'd probably call it a feud between the Ainsworth, one of the Ainsworth sons, and Novomatic is a majority shareholder of Ainsworth Game Technology, and a little bit of a dispute again over proposed amendments to the Constitution around conflict of interest. Novomatic's proposed some changes, and the dispute is over whether those changes go far enough. So if you just scroll down, Oscar, we sort of detail some of the questions. Of course, K-Rolf is basically suggesting that if we go back in time, he made some accusations. In fact, there were some accusations in the local Australian media that a couple of the Ainsworth executives received substantial payouts around about the time that Novomatic assumed a controlling stake in Ainsworth about 7 or 8 years ago. And K-Rolf sort of believes that this is a conflict of interest. This was never disclosed. It should have been disclosed to shareholders. And he believes that the latest amendments being proposed by Novomatic do not go far enough as to prevent that situation from happening again. In fact, he says they still don't require disclosure should that exact same scenario happen again. So he doesn't so much not support what Novomatic's suggesting, he just wants them to go further. Just ruffling the feathers a bit more, Andrew.
Gee, Novomatic must hate this guy. I mean, he doesn't mind stirring the pot, does he?
he loves it. I think he quite enjoys it, from what I hear, Andy.
Yeah, nothing like a good feud to get the stories going. But as we've mentioned before, it distracts the business from actually doing what they need to do. It's in that regard, it's quite a shame. But it needs to be reported on. It is an important an important sort of thing that's affecting the business, and I think people need to know about it. All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? Well, there you go. Resorts World New York now offering full table games, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting takeaway from this story is that Genting Malaysia has operations. Obviously, Resorts World Genting in Malaysia has been the long-time flagship, arguably the first integrated resort in Asia, operating successfully for many years. They've got operations in Malaysia, in the UK, and in the US. And all of those entities reported high revenues, so they had increased revenues, but obviously a lot of cost rising, affecting all of them, but particularly around the pre-opening expenses in New York. So that sort of affected the results overall there, Andrew. But, and obviously the tables opened on the 28th of April at Resorts World New York City. First time there's been, live gaming tables in New York. And those results have not been reported yet. They do not form any part of the Q1 results. But it'll be interesting to see once Q2 results come out, whether we start to see the impact of that as well.
It certainly will. I mean, they opened it earlier than expected. They got the three properties in New York, New York itself, and downstate New York, or New York City, effectively the metro New York City, and Resorts World wasting no time getting their tables open there. So that would, as you say, contributed to expenses. It's good to see Genting Malaysia doing a bit better across the world.
Yeah, I mean, they've got pretty expansive operations, don't they? I mean, they recently acquired the casino at Stratford in London, which I've been to before a couple of times. They acquired that last year. Obviously, Empire Resorts in New York and Resorts World New York City. So, they're obviously quite expansive. And that's not to mention all of the operations of the parent company, Genting Berhad, as well.
Yeah, and as you say, the first ever integrated resort in Asia was up the hill. Resorts World Genting, or Genting Highlands, as it used to be called, now 60 years old, and that was sort of the original model in which the whole Genting business has been built on, but famously not present in Macau. So operations all over the place, but famously missed out in Macau, and they tried again the last time that licenses were issued in Macau and did not succeed. So, but we wish them well and hope that they can do well. And actually, our operations in Las Vegas as well now with Resorts World Las Vegas. So they really are a global company, probably the most global company.
Oh, I think no doubt. Yeah, I mean they've also got Egypt and Bahamas, so they're pretty expansive.
Yeah. All right, next one, Oscar.
Yeah, talking about
speak of the devil.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this is the last story that we've got today, and I just thought this was interesting because the Resorts World Las Vegas story has been challenged since day one. Of course, there were some issues around the management there for a while, who have sort of been gradually overhauled over the past 12 to 18 months or so. Of course, there were some issues around being censured by the regulator there in Nevada. But there's good results in Q1 for Resorts World Las Vegas. They've been talking about a fresh start, revamping their premium gaming experience there, and they saw a big uptick in this quarter in both revenue and profit. So very strong results for Resorts World Las Vegas.
Yeah, Carlos Castro must be delighted. I mean, I think the early years were not good, and perhaps the leadership. Not so much the leadership of Resorts World, but the leadership of Genting right at the top, probably a little asleep at the wheel in the early years, not quite knowing how to run a casino in Las Vegas, I guess, because they'd never done it before. Obviously, that's quite different to running Resorts World Genting or even Resorts World Sentosa or any of their smaller operations around the world. Las Vegas is a unique market unto itself. But they seem to be on a winner with Carlos Castro. They appointed Carlos Castro well over 12 months ago. I know he's into his second year now. He has righted the ship, brought in some senior executives that he's comfortable with, and seems to be going a lot better now. So, good luck to Resorts World Las Vegas. I'll actually probably be staying there next month, in maybe the third week of June. Just finalising that later today, actually, all my travel for the next month or so. So good to see some better results from Resorts World Las Vegas, and a bit more activity up the north end of the strip there as well. And if the NBA does if it does indeed come to Las Vegas, and if it is indeed at the north end of the strip, that's just going to be an absolute boon for Resorts World Las Vegas. So they must be just praying for that.
I was just trying to figure out, Andrew, my rugby league team, the Parramatta Reels, have been confirmed to be playing in the NRL Las Vegas games in February. They haven't played them before, so I was contemplating, do I make a trip over there and sort of go watch the footy and do a little Vegas trip? Because from what I understand, not just what you'd expect, the Super Bowl, NBA, or if the NBA goes there, the NFL, the NHL, all those are, they really help those Las Vegas resorts. And I understand that Resorts World Las Vegas said the rugby league was a great month for them when they made the trip over there. I think you made.
He specifically mentioned to me when I was there. I was there the week after, or 2 weeks after it happened, and he actually mentioned. He said great numbers for them, great activity. He said that the whole property was overrun with Australians. So and he said it was fantastic. Why wouldn't you say it's fantastic? But it was fantastic for their numbers. So I would encourage you to do that, Ben. Being a rugby league fan as you are, why not get over there and perhaps take a few people over there with you. It's very busy, and it's a great place to stay. So yeah, I would encourage that. All right, that's the last one, is it? Looks like it is. So what's in store for you for the weekend, Ben?
I have a luncheon tomorrow, Andrew, with one of the wineries from the Hunter Valley, having a lunch here in Sydney. So wife and I will be having a bit of a boozy lunch in the city tomorrow, and then I think a pretty cruisy Sunday.
That's nice. So I'm still in Toronto. I'm actually going to stay the weekend, and then on Monday, Corey Roberts, our COO and CTO and the publisher of our CDC Gaming, our American sister company, and his wife and I are actually driving back to Cleveland, where he lives, and that's about a 4-hour drive. So we'll be crossing the border from Canada into the United States, staying there for about a week or so, and then heading down to Florida. Going to go check out Hard Rock Tampa. I've been meaning to go to that property for many, many years. I've been to the Hard Rock Hollywood property in Fort Lauderdale, but the Hard Rock Tampa in Florida does amazing numbers, and it's not well known because they're not listed. So they don't have to publish their numbers. Of course, it's tribal. So the Seminole tribe owns both of those. So there's a lot of action that people don't know about in Florida down there. And I hear you've got a little help. You got a little helper there, Ben.
I do. My Willow is trying to get my attention, as she tends to do sometimes if I haven't been patting her for too long. So yeah.
You'll be able to give her a little walk or something shortly. So down there, and be going to SBC Americas, which will be interesting in Fort Lauderdale for those of you who are not from the US. Is really just a suburb of the greater Miami area. So we'll be hanging around Miami, and then actually going to a couple of the football games. The World Cup's obviously in the US. I'm going to a game in Houston. I'm going to a game in San Jose. But between them, I'll be spending about 10 days in Las Vegas, visiting all of our friends in Las Vegas, and then back to Manila for a week in preparation for the IAG Expo towards very late June, very early July. I'll be in Manila for a week preparing for IAG Expo, of course, September 14 to 17. Go check out IAG Expo at iagexpo.com. And then finally back to Macau for our MAD event on July 7, which we still haven't announced. We're actually holding off for a particular reason. I know you've got that there ready to announce. We're holding off for one particular reason, but we'll be announcing that. Is that next week we're planning to announce that, Ben?
Hopefully, Andrew. So just waiting on one thing, but we're basically just ready to go.
All right, very good. Yes, that's the long-term travel for me. So I'll be spending the weekend in Toronto, which will be quite nice. And I think that's it from us. So thanks everyone for watching. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your boozy lunch tomorrow, Ben. Or tomorrow your time. It's Friday there. It's still Thursday night here on Saturday. Have a great weekend, everyone. And I think that's bye from us. We'll see you next week. Say bye, Ben.
Bye, Ben.
See ya.